Here we are at one of the most southernmost points of the United States, standing in front of this ancient lighthouse. And lighthouses like this have been used for centuries in order to safely guide sailors and their ships to harbor. In fact, this technology was invented even before the time of Jesus. We've relied on it for so long. And yet today, life-saving technologies like GPS satellite location and radar have made instruments like this outdated and, if not, actually obsolete. Today, this lighthouse is simply a tourist attraction, open today from 10 to 5. For 2,000 years, about as long as lighthouses have been in existence, Christians have been leaving ports like this one to share the gospel across oceans and continents. Beautiful work has been done by missionaries through the ages, sacrificial work. Sometimes, when they got dropped off on foreign shores, their cargo even included caskets, knowing full well that the work that they were doing would cost them their entire lives. There are now more than 2.3 billion Christians worldwide. That's over a quarter of the globe's population. In fact, in the last century alone, the number of Christians worldwide has nearly quadrupled. And yet, despite all of those efforts, we're still not even close to being done answering the Great Commission. Because 3 out of every 4 image bearers on this planet still don't know Jesus as their Savior and Lord. For centuries, this mission has been stewarded primarily by churches in the northern and western hemispheres. And yet, because of their great work, and they've reached so many, the heart of the global church and the mathematical majority of its population now exists in the South. And places like sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia are simply exploding with the gospel. This seismic change in how a Christian presence now covers the globe requires of us a paradigm shift in how we think about missions. Just like how the lighthouse for so long was foundational to nautical travel and has now become obsolete, so too have some of our ideas about what Christian missions needs to be today. In so many places the world over, the new churches that were once founded by Western missionaries are now becoming places of sending themselves. They've grown, they've matured, and now they're putting their shoulders to the work as well. Once our daughter churches, they are now our sister churches. And so our relationships with them need to reflect that change and how we do missions together. They have their own pastors, evangelists, and missionaries. They're now reaching neighboring people groups and doing so at much lower cost and with much higher impact. In fact, some of the very nations that were once evangelized by the West are sending their own missionaries back to our shores in a wave of what's being called reverse missions. What was once the model of from the West to the rest, now simply needs to look different. When there's established Christian leaders in places all over the world, who's going to be most effective at doing missions work in those settings? Someone who's an indigenous leader in the country that knows their people, the scriptures, the language, or someone like me? Let's face it, they would be more effective tomorrow than I would be even after 10 years in a location like that. Multiplication Network is a beautiful example of an organization living into the new paradigm of training nationals, working through partnerships, and verifying impact. Working with hundreds of denominations and Christian ministries in over 75 countries, Multiplication Network has seen tens of thousands of churches started by indigenous leaders. And these churches are reaching hundreds of thousands of new believers who are coming to Christ and being discipled by their own local Christian leadership. This low-cost but high-impact model is working, but there are so many people yet across the globe yet to receive the good news. At the end of the day, as the way, the truth, and the life, Jesus is the only way to the eternal safe harbor. Churches in the West and around the world can now work in partnership, raising up indigenous leaders to continue that work at an even faster pace and with greater impact so that all nations can share together at the wedding supper of the Lamb.